Welcome to another episode of the Bambooszn Podcast. I am your host, sober fitness coach Dorian Warmsley. And before we hop into all the topics and the guests today, I want to dedicate this episode to Cristina Mendez, who recently passed. She was a 3-time cancer survivor. She was fighting. I met her about a year ago. She used to sell me water. And, when we met and sat down, she told me her story of all the fighting she did to get through her cancer and everything. It's very inspiring, and you just felt her fighting soul. And those are the kind of people I love to meet because those people keep you going, keep that fire inside you going. So we're going to miss you, Cristina, here. Everybody in Las Vegas and Orange County that knew her. It's very unfortunate. Rest in peace, Cristina Mendez. Now, before I introduce today's guest, I want to let you know today I'm officially 950 days without any alcohol, baby. Yeah. We are hitting another milestone. Another milestone for me. So hope this inspires you wherever you're at, day 1, day 2, month 3. Hear this and know you can continue to push towards your sobriety. Now, today's guest is amazing because she's in a similar field of work that I'm into and has a true passion for the sobriety as much as I do. Also, she has her own podcast. She is an alternative sober mentor, the one and only Maggie Jensen.
What a cool episode for me to be a part of. And the fighter mentality that you mentioned with Cristina and then your celebration, I have chills that I'm here with you. Thank you.
Yeah, and I forgot how, I kind of know how, as I've been going through the sobriety journey, and growth journey in general, I purposely am mindful of who I follow, and I search for people, sometimes you get caught in rabbit holes. I try to make sure I follow people who are going to help me feel inspired, help me make sure I stay on point and stay in line with what I want to do. Coaches, speakers, people who teach, great tools for you for life, and also people in the sobriety field. So I noticed, on your page, it was full of sobriety, and I was like, oh, wow, and she lives in Vegas? I need to see what she's all about. So if you don't mind telling us a bit, where you're from and how you got into what you do.
Yeah, it is funny. We kind of break the norm. We're sober in Sin City and loving it. Yeah. I'm not from Las Vegas, though. My husband is military. We moved here actually during quarantine.
Wow.
But I was born in Kansas, Midwestern girl. My father was military, so we moved around a lot. I lived in California, North Carolina, and Fayetteville, outside of Fort Bragg. Spent time in Puerto Rico with him when he was stationed there. But Kansas was always home, and I was in Kansas City when I met my husband, and then we moved to Savannah. So when I talk about home, it is Kansas, but been around a lot.
And what branch of military is your husband?
He's Army.
Okay,
so
nice.
He's out at Nellis, but he's on like a little 5-man team with the Army. So
nice. Okay.
Yeah, just teaching now. He's seeing retirement in his lens, so we're almost there.
That's amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
And so with the sobriety, what about how long have you been sober?
February, I know it's like we have our dates, right?
Yeah.
February 15th was the last time Party Girl Blackout Maggie came out to play.
Maggie.
And she's been
What year?
2020.
2020. So you just passed 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Now for you, I'm always curious, was it just alcohol or did you also dab in other things?
Alcohol was always the main thing. There were times when, of course, the alcohol led to saying yes to more party substances. But alcohol, and I used to joke about it, like, I love alcohol so much I don't need to try anything else. I think maybe that was a good thing that I didn't get into other things.
Yeah.
But I was definitely using it to mask a lot of pain.
It's crazy you make that point because I literally just yesterday, I think I was in a conversation with somebody and I was telling her the story of my life of things I've done in the past. And I was telling her how there was a point in life where I was doing cocaine for like a good 7-month stint and how it usually starts with when you're drunk. Because when you're drunk, you're not going to make the best decisions. You're more like free, like, okay, I'm like, fuck it, line it up. Let's do it. And I got coked out and I was like, oh, damn, this is a drug right here.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you say that. And you said you were masking with the alcohol.
Yeah.
Let's get down to it.
A whole lot. So I grew up seeing alcohol as a masking agent, as a numbing from my mom. So, my dad was deployed when I was really young. Even when I was born, he was out of the country. So my mom, mother of 3 children, 2 older brothers who were rambunctious and needing a lot of attention. And then I was, I think, a pretty sensitive, fragile kid. She was alone with that.
Yeah.
And I was 5 when she started to drink. And it was really apparent, not understanding what alcohol was, it was really apparent that there was a disconnect. It almost felt like I see my mom, but she's just the mechanism of her, that her soul was gone. And so growing up in that kind of household, it was learning a bunch of really unhealthy functions, learning to lie, learning to not talk about the elephant in the room, learning to even the physical things of pouring alcohol out at 7 years old. Kind of sneaking with my brothers to get her alcohol and sneak it out and pour it out when she was passed out. And
so you guys would sneak to get it for her?
No, sorry. We would sneak to get into her room when she was passed out.
Oh, shit. Okay.
As a teenager, I would get bribed to go with her to drive her to get alcohol.
Yeah.
So there were all sorts of dynamics, years and years and years of living in a house with an addicted mom. And that's actually something I love to study is childhood of an alcoholic, because that's a really good indicator of whether or not you're going to use substances as an adult. And it was like, wow, I'm not alone. So learning these different kind of indicators as a kid, what you're going through, how that shapes your mind, your personality, and breaks kind of that stigma of alcohol being a disease. Rather, it's literally how you learned to cope in life. So, there were all of these really things that I normalized. I thought everybody was going through this stuff. Everybody was afraid to go home, things like that. But I clung to my middle brother, and he was really my rock. But he wasn't really able, he was at an age where he really absorbed a lot of my mom's drinking. I was kind of able to hide out in my room. I would just kind of study, and I loved school. I loved learning. And so I would just go in my room and kind of read, whereas he would go comfort her and parent her a lot. And he had some really poor mental health issues. And when we were teenagers almost, he was 14, I was 12, we were home alone, and he took his life. And so
What?
that on top of my mom's drinking, I was just like...
And you were 12?
I was 12. Yeah.
What was his, if you know, the things he was dealing with, did it have to deal with your mom and her drinking? Or was it just other things too, to your knowledge? I mean, I know you were very young, but...
Yeah. I was 12, but I felt like I was an adult already.
Yeah.
Because of the stuff I'd seen, the shit I'd experienced. So he was diagnosed with bipolar.
Oh, wow.
And he had this really powerful quality of being the hero child, the star child, where he could put on a face and make everybody feel happy and make everybody laugh. But on the inside, I know he was screaming.
Oh, wow.
And so he never really lashed out or got angry until that tipping point. And I remember many episodes where he would just turn red in the face and he would be crying like he was about to explode. And he'd say, I'm crying because there's pain inside of me. And my dad, being deployed, he would hear about this. And so he would send money for him to get therapy and get on medication. And my grandparents stepped in as much as they could. But I think he was really just feeling alone in it. He also got involved in gang activity. So I remember when I was home alone with him, it happened. I was on the phone with 911 and she told me to go outside. And I start to go outside and I look through the glass door and there was a man in all red outside. And so...
Like a gang member? In Kansas?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. What city in Kansas?
Everywhere. Tecumseh, right out of Topeka.
Okay.
So he had been affiliated. I don't know how detailed it is, but he'd been affiliated with the Blood Gang.
Yeah.
And we don't know what happened, but I imagine that it was something where he got in trouble. Maybe he was pretty an old soul for his age. So he was out in the streets doing things by 10, 11 years old.
Oh, wow.
So I have no idea what that man might have said or done to him that day, but when he came inside, he did that. And then when I was about to go outside, he was just standing there. So I think it was just, when we don't have a good home life, we get mixed up with the wrong people. And I think that was a really, really sad symptom of that. Just being mixed up with the wrong people.
And so you were 12, he was 14. How old is your oldest brother at the time?
He was actually deployed. He was 20.
Oh, he's military too. Okay.
21. All the men in my family, military.
So it was just you, your mom, and your middle brother at the house when this happened.
She was at work, and so there was no cell phones. This was like back when car phones were
And you found him?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And do you think that, or let me ask this, when was your first introduction to alcohol? Like you experiencing it, not seeing it, but like you actually drinking?
Yeah, it was only about 6 months later.
Really?
Yeah. I hated, and I was very conscious of like the effects of alcohol, seeing what it did to my mom, and I hated that. And I would tell Eric when we were kids, pouring out the liquor bottles, I'm never drinking this stuff. I'm never drinking this stuff. And then it was only about 6 months later that it seemed like a good idea to escape the pain. And the first thing that came out of my mouth when I drank, a huge fucking solo cup of alcohol, chugged it, and I got that immediate warm buzz, and I was like, no wonder my mom is an alcoholic.
Oh my God.
Just generational trauma.
When you drank that night or that day, what was the situation? Like, were you just by yourself? Like, hey, I'm gonna fill this up. Were you at a party? Like,
yeah, I had friends over. At that point, my dad got off of his deployments, was back in North Carolina, so I had moved to his house. My dad was like, I'm getting you out of there. Moved back to his house, and he was out, and I had 2 friends over, and it was this almost not even a challenge from them, but it was this perceived idea that if I drank because I knew about alcohol, that they would think I was a little bit cooler. Even though I knew all the dangers of it, I knew that it was something that went against my morals and my values. If I could make other people like me more, it was worth it. And so I was like, I know about this alcohol. I know that tequila has a worm in it, because all these things I learned pouring it out.
Yeah.
It was really backwards. And I loved it, unfortunately. I freaking loved it.
I ain't gonna lie, alcohol was good. But so you're 12 and a half, 13 now, your first drink, and you continue to drink. Did it get real bad already that in that stage of your life, or like was it more of just you were somebody who drank?
Oh, it was just, teenager, rebelling, weekends as much as I could. It wasn't like what you would say as an adult, a healthy intake. It was very much binge drinking. It was drinking to get blackout drunk. And it was kind of like something, again, that when I ended up moving back to Kansas, thinking I needed to save my mom, and when I started going to school there and being Eric's little sister and everything like that, they were like, oh, that's Eric's little sister. And I was like, oh, I can show him how much I can drink at these parties and make these friends. And I really loved the identity of Party Girl Maggie, because it brought attention. It brought the ability to connect with his girlfriends and his friends that I had grown up with that were older than me. But I was like, I'm cool. I'm hanging out with the older kids and I can drink like them. And it was, it became very much my focus. I quit doing all sports that I was really good at.
Yeah.
To do that on the weekends and any school night that I could.
Damn.
Yeah.
And this is all in Kansas. And as you got older and you went to high school and maybe even like towards college, like, was there ever a point at that era of your life where you kind of thought you had a problem, or you kind of were still stuck in that zone and phase of Party Maggie?
It was almost the like double-edged sword of knowing that alcohol was bad, but I had this model of what my mom was, and that was problematic. I wasn't her. I wasn't physically dependent. I wasn't those people in AA rooms like I'd gone with her and seen, and I was like, I'm not them, so I don't have a problem. It seemed like all of the problems that came up from alcohol were driven by something else. I couldn't connect that they were actually driven by alcohol. I mean, I was very capable of succeeding in school, high school, but after high school, everything that I went after crumbled because of my party attitude.
Did you go to college?
I tried.
Were you in Kansas?
Mm-hmm. Washburn University.
And how'd that go? Like, because I know when I was in that part of life, that was where the drinking went to the whole another level for me personally.
Mm-hmm. Well, to go to college, I decided I was going to sign up for the Air National Guard.
Okay.
And I went to basic training. I went to tech school, started on orders. 2 months out of my tech school graduation, I popped hot for marijuana because in my drink, just like you said, in my drinking, I was like, well, I'll smoke weed too.
Yeah.
I don't care that I can get piss test. I'm not going to get pissed. I was fully convinced I was not going to get a UA. And then I did. So after that, I decided, I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to quit college. How am I going to pay for college? I actually started working at Hooters.
Okay.
And service industry culture. I don't know if you've ever have you ever worked in a bar or restaurant?
I haven't, but I have clients who do.
Mm-hmm.
I have friends who've done it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've just heard. I mean, especially in Vegas, almost everybody's in it,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of get an idea of what it's like.
Yeah.
And I've still seen Hooters on like not horrible bosses. What's it called? Undercover Boss.
Undercover Boss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, what?
Yeah.
But go ahead, tell us how that was going.
So it was like coming from the military to Hooters. It is a restaurant that has a lot of standards.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that kind of translates. Uniform standards. Like I love rules outside of drinking. Don't give me rules on not drinking, right? But like with work systems, learning things, I like rules. And Hooters was very much that. But Hooters was different because I immediately walked in and heard other girls talking about how they're hungover, they're still drunk from the night before, and they're about to make $300 on one shift. And I was like, oh, so I can be both. I can be really good at this job, and I can also be a hot mess express with my drinking. And I would work 5 shifts a week, basically to pay for school and my drinking. And school very quickly took the back burner. And I would go to school for a semester, make it to like finals week, and then just get toe up from the floor up, not even going for my finals. Take a semester off, work at Hooters, and then get back to school for a year, same kind of making it to almost the end and then fizzling out because of my drinking. So finally I was like, I see people with Hooters making advancements without their college degree. I really enjoyed studying Spanish, and there were cooks in my restaurant that helped me learn very fluently. And so there were openings with Hooters. If you knew a second language, you could go open stores abroad.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I'm just going to do that. So I quit school. In that time as well, I got 2 DUIs.
In Kansas.
Mm-hmm. And there was never the connection of like, maybe it's the alcohol causing all these issues.
How close were they? Were they like from one to the other? Like got them pretty.
My
same
first
year,
one was the same summer that I came back from tech school.
Okay.
I was only 19. Got my DUI. I think it was a month later that I popped hot for my UA. And then I was able to get a diversion on that. But then when I was 23, I got my second one. So they were about 4 years apart.
Damn.
So I was very well versed in the breathalyzer life in my car, unfortunately.
Oh, you had to carry it to start it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, going to work at Hooters sometimes meant having to get rides because I couldn't pass my breathalyzer even the morning after.
Damn.
Yeah, it was, obviously I deserved that. But I never learned from those things. And the shame that I felt from these mistakes, these setbacks, they were stacking up in a way that alcohol became the only way I felt good. I think that's true for a lot of people.
Did your parents at this time, were they aware of anything?
Oh, yeah.
Like knowing you were drinking like this? I mean, obviously you got DUI, I'm pretty sure they found out, but what were their thoughts? Or they ever say anything to you? Was your mom still drinking?
Oh yeah. My mom, she drank her whole life. So she had 5 DUIs.
Oh.
So
shit.
To her, I was doing good.
Yeah.
It's just bonkers. My dad, he was the unconditional love giver, also a very stern man.
Yeah.
He wasn't proud of it, but he helped me get through it. He helped. I think I could have probably learned my lesson a little harder if I had to pay for my lawyer and everything. And he was the one that paid for my lawyer. I think he was just trying to show me love and be like, let's get you out of this. After my second one, though, he moved from Fayetteville to Kansas and moved me in with him.
Oh, wow.
And at 23, I was not very proud of that. Being a 23-year-old moving back in with and living in their basement, literally. Sure. He knew that telling me not to drink wasn't going to do anything. So he just tried to love me through it and give me life advice, help me feel good about certain things. He really encouraged me to go to the gym, really encouraged me to watch what I eat. And I think he pulled things from like military discipline and just started to, he would say like, oh, I can tell you're angsty, do some push-ups. You know, he really started to put these wires together for me of like, there's nothing outside of you that's going to make you feel better. You've got to do that job. That's an inside job. It didn't click for a few more years. Yeah. But those lessons really started to get louder in my mind later on in life. So
then after the DUI, the second one, you still didn't think the alcohol. Obviously it wasn't, because you said you were going to Hooters.
Yeah.
And you couldn't even get to work because you were
my dad would take
drunk.
me. My dad would take me and he'd give me these heartfelt lectures. I mean, they were lectures.
How did you feel? If you could think about, remember the emotions you felt when you had to like wake your dad up or tell him, "Hey, Dad, I got fucked." You know,
yeah.
I don't know how you told him, but
he was down to earth too. He'd be like, "You got too fucked up. You drank too many shots, huh?" That's what he'd say.
And then like, so how did you feel? Like during that on the ride there, like, did you ever feel like,
oh man,
bad or sad?
Pit in
or
my
anything?
stomach. I felt this is my life. Kind of a futile attitude. Like, what's the point in even trying to be a good person anymore? Because I'm such a fuck up.
Oh, wow.
I obviously don't have anything good in my life, except for on those rides, my dad would literally just pound in my head the good things, my good qualities. And I think that's kind of the opposite for a lot of people that are struggling, the people around them. And I know I'm guilty of this with my mom. We think we need to tell them how bad they are, how many problems they have. They know. And my dad being like, Maggie, I just see so much potential in you. I see how good you are with XYZ, how good you are when you walk into Hooters. You love your job. You're dedicated. When you're at school, you love school. Like, tap into those things. And it would give me a sense of hope in that futile kind of mentality.
Damn, shout out to your dad. That's a great approach.
But wait, there's more.
Go ahead.
So that was a really amazing experience, actually. I look back on that time when I was with my dad. It was about 2 years that I lived in the house with them. Is, I would say, one of the best times of my life, even though I was in a very low point. The memories I made with him, the things that he instilled in me and helped me with. I did take a couple of sober stints then, and some wheels started to turn of like, there are people in this world that don't drink. What do they do? Wasn't that bonkers to think about back in the day? Yeah. It's like, so there's people that don't spend every waking moment outside of work or sleep at the bar. Like, what do they do with their time? And I started to connect that. I did Ashy Bynes Booty Boot Camp, which was like a gym program. So I'd go to the gym on a Friday night at 10 p.m. And like, I started to get things going, and I started to journal about a fitness program, a nutrition program devoted to people struggling with mental health, addictive drinking. But in my mind, that was very much like super scary. That's a big risk, bet on myself. How am I going to get certified at my level then? I was like, thousands of dollars to get my certification. That's crazy. Build a business? No way. So I was like, I'm just going to settle for this low-hanging fruit of the goals with Hooters. And so I started to move up within the corporation after I left school, traveled, did all these openings, went to Barcelona, Spain, and opened a Hooters.
You speak Spanish?
Not so fluently anymore because I haven't been practicing.
But you were.
No he practicado.
Okay.
No, so I love it, but I just haven't been diligent lately. But that was really something I saw as like, oh, I can make my career with Hooters. I really did excel. I started getting invited to the pageants, a calendar girl, Hooters Girl of the Year, all of these things, these accolades, while I was still juggling Party Girl Maggie. And that was when I did meet my husband in Kansas City. I got this promotion to go train managers and bartenders and bar trainers in Kansas City, which is about an hour away. And that was kind of my peak with Hooters. And then on openings, my drinking started to show, like rear its head. I'd be on a Hooters opening and reports of like me hitting a trainer. I'm blackout drunk. I don't have any credibility. I don't remember if I hit somebody or not.
Hold on. So during this period of you opening and traveling, all that, you're still Party Maggie, like you're getting fucked while working?
That's kind of the culture of the service industry.
Just get fucked up on the shit.
Which was an excuse. It was an excuse because not every person
Yeah.
in the service industry does that. But it was very much my mind of like, everybody, this is the norm.
Yeah.
So we'd work 12, 15-hour shifts, get off, go to the bar, drink until 2 a.m., have to be back up at 6 a.m., and just keep going. And just kind of 2 or 3 consecutive openings, there were reports of just me being belligerent.
Oh, fuck.
And so I had to step down. And so that was like...
Oh, damn.
Yeah. So it was like military, college, now Hooters. That was when it started to click. And it wasn't so much alcohol is the problem as it was, I am really becoming my mom. Now, at that point, I had gotten married. Brian, my husband, and I, my drinking was not faring well for our relationship. And I was like, okay, 3 big life goals, all diminished by alcohol. Now my marriage is hanging on by a thread. I'm literally my mom now. Whereas before it was like I had that divide.
Yeah.
I can balance. I'm succeeding. I'm not my mom. Well, now I'm looking myself in the mirror and I'm like, I am becoming my mom.
Oh my God.
And so that started to turn the wheels for me to be different. And then what really changed things was when it was 2018 when my dad passed away. He was hit on a motorcycle.
Oh no.
So on his motorcycle. So it was what I kind of call like my waking point. And it was realizing that my brother Eric's death caused me to black out, waste 16 years of my life, 17 years of my life, time that I had with my dad where he was trying so hard to help me fall in love with myself. And then he was gone. At any point, any of the people that we love can be gone. And me drinking to escape the pain of Eric's death meant that I wasn't able to actually be present and be around and have as many moments with my dad. And that was like, I can't waste my life anymore. I can't waste time because who knows, you know, life is fragile. I hate to be cliche, but it is. It's like, who knows when it's somebody's last day. And if I've been blackout for our whole relationship, then I literally wasted years with them. And there were so many holidays and like special family moments that could have been really good. But I ended up being angry, lashing out at my dad because I was upset about my mom or Eric. And it was like, if I could have just accepted that those things happen and grieved healthfully, then those Thanksgivings, those Christmases, those even the 3 years or 2 years that I lived in the basement, as good as they were, they could have been a lot better because they were still freckled with me being party girl. But it was unfortunate. Party girl was different with like the people that really loved her, with my husband, with my dad. I'd let all the anger out on them. And so it was like a lot of regret from wasting that time with my dad that I was like, I can't keep wasting that time and my marriage, my time with my husband. And that grief process was really hard.
And that's 2018, you said he passed?
Mm-hmm.
So you're grieving, you're understanding that all these things, alcohol is kind of hindering you and holding you back from memories with people, your relationships on the verge of, going away. And still for 2 more years or a year and a half, you continue to drink still.
Mm-hmm.
Because you say you didn't stop to 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, your father passed, what was the shift or what was going on? Did it make you dive deeper into it?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Take me through that 2-year period or so.
Well, I know that this kind of philosophy doesn't sit well with a lot of people, but from the end of 2018 to February 2020, I was trying all the things that I'd seen with AA. Just accept that you're an addict, accept that you're an alcoholic, identify as that. Kind of make your sole purpose. This is how I had perceived it. And I know this isn't the same for everybody, but I had perceived it as like, make your sole purpose not to drink. Just get through the day without a drink. And through 2019, I saw how that actually gave me this attitude of, what's the point? I'm an alcoholic. Why should I even try not to drink? I'm diseased. That's going to be me forever. So I fumbled a lot. And 2 weeks off, oh, what's the point? I'm an addict. So this not drinking thinking led me to really catastrophic drinking episodes during my grief with my dad. And so it got uglier before it got better. And then there were instances I had gotten kind of a little job at this t-shirt company, and holiday season of 2019, I just fill in the patches, embarrassed the shit out of myself at the holiday party. CEO had to carry me out.
Fuck.
My husband was there, not impressed.
Oh,
there
man.
were just a lot more blemishes that were like, another thing. And I just remember the feeling of waking up the next day so many times of like, I don't remember what happened, but I know I have to apologize for something. And I know I'm going to have to sit through another lecture on the couch and hear what I did wrong. And that feeling of like hearing the story of what you did when you don't feel like you were actually there, but knowing that you did something really hurtful. I was just so sick of that. And I think it went back to when I was a kid and I was so confused by my mom not remembering and me sitting on the couch with her and being like, do you not remember telling me last night that you hate me? Do you not remember last night you trying to throw plates at us?
Damn.
Do you not remember last night that you told us to fend for ourselves for dinner and we didn't have food? So all these very typical things that children of alcoholics go through, I was putting my husband through that as an adult and not remembering and then wanting to shrug it off. That really scared me as a kid from my mom. Like, how can she not remember? That's not a thing for a kid to not have memory.
Yeah.
But once you start drinking, you start to understand like what it means to lose your memory, right? So now most of my life is blackout. I don't remember much. Then hearing it time and time again and having to apologize for things that I can't even sit through the discussion of it.
Yeah.
I couldn't fake the sincerity anymore for the apology. I just couldn't go there anymore. And so it was just a few more of those experiences. February 15th, 2020, we had one of my husband's very good friends in the military, like family to us, had a wedding. I got married. My husband had C5, C6 disc fusions like a month prior, so he's in a neck brace.
Yeah.
And I am drunk, blackout, yelling at him for not dancing with me because it could have literally killed him. Then when everybody was going to the after party, he was like, no, we need to go home. And I called him a fucking pussy in the middle of the street in downtown Savannah because he wouldn't let me go party.
Oh, no.
And February 16th, I woke up and I was like, this feeling, I didn't remember any of that. This feeling is too much. So I was like, I can't do this anymore. And then I started to think, what did I do in all of my sobriety stints that didn't work? not drinking thinking, just don't drink. You're an addict. Identify as your coping mechanism, accept that, all that stuff. And I was like, what if I just do the opposite of that? And what that meant in my mind was, if I'm not going to drink, what is it that I'm going to do? And I had never really thought about that before. I spent so much time in my mind thinking, don't do this, I don't want that. I never defined what I did want or who I did want to be. So that was just blank. And of course, if we don't have any structure to work on, we're never going to be able to build it, right? So if I don't want to be an addict, if I don't want to be an alcoholic, who is it that I do want to be? And those little journalings that I did in my dad's basement started to come back to mind. I want to be healthy. I want to be fit. I want to be somebody who is control of her emotions. I want to start a business. I want to help people. There was a lot of times like within Hooters and then my little sales job after that, I was like, is this really what I meant to do my whole life? Just work a 9-to-5 or work a service industry job? And I think there was a big lack of purpose because I was just settling for what I knew I could do. I didn't know I could start a business, but at least that felt really exciting. That felt, for the first time, it was intoxicating without alcohol. It was intoxicating to think about actually spending my days nerding out over workout technique or macronutrients or hydration or mindset. And what do you know? The world shut down about a month later.
Damn.
And most people went into quarantine with the drinking mentality.
Oh, I got fucked up.
Yeah, mimosas at 10 a.m., like the beer sitting behind the Zoom screen kind of thing. And I went hardcore into gym progressive overload. And I had heard about that. I had always enjoyed the gym. My dad instilled fitness, but I was going hungover. I was going to punish myself to get skinny and work off the alcohol calories. I was going to justify that my drinking was okay because I went to the gym.
Yeah.
But for the first time, I was like, no, I'm going to go to the gym with the mentality to see how strong I can get. And I started a Brett Contreras. I got the Glute Lab book.
Yeah.
I started his progressive overload training. I got all of my programs to begin: personal training, nutrition coach, behavior change specialist. I just was like, I'm just going to throw all the money that I would have thrown at alcohol, I'm going to put it into this. And that started to change my brain of like what I spend money on and then what I spend my time doing. And so I was starting to think in terms of, what goal am I going to achieve next? I had never thought about that. Maybe in lines with Hooters of like, what's my next accolade that I want to get? But I think that was really for external validation, to be like, I'm a Hooters calendar girl or something like that. Whereas this was completely for me. And what I noticed, even having extra time during quarantine, was that my mind wasn't going to alcohol anymore. It was like, ooh, how much am I going to squat tomorrow? I'm going to make sure I get my protein now because I got to be strong for that. And when I started to think about the idea of alcohol, my husband had his whole bar cart sitting there, you know, my old bar cart. I donated it to him. I would walk past it and not even notice it for the first time because my mind was going to what I wanted to be. I'd finally defined that and I started to take steps to get there. And I think that is a big missing link for a lot of people, is like, stop thinking about what you don't want, because you're going to keep attracting that. Your mind is going to go there and attract those subjects, and you're going to have to use willpower to avoid. Like, build that model of what you want instead and let yourself believe in it. Let yourself go after it. Have some confidence.
That's crazy you said, because I believe that willpower, it's not the way to go. And I didn't, first time I thought about it this way of how I stopped drinking, because when I stopped, you put it in exactly how it happened for me was I went to business for myself and I knew I want to be the best experience this person has. I'm working for myself. If this client doesn't like me, doesn't resign next month, I'm going to be broke, no money. So I was like, how can I become the best coach I can be? Improve my communication, learn how to program better, learn how to talk to women better, because all my clients are women, and all those little things, being on time, all them. If I get drunk, On the
You
weekend,
sacrifice all that.
that means Saturday, I'm hungover. I don't want to do anything. I'm going to eat some bullshit food. Sunday, I might feel a little better, but that's 1.5, 2 days I'm going to lose because my relationship with alcohol was similar to yours. I was blacked out or I was sober.
Mm-hmm.
So it's great, crazy you say that, like diving into yourself, all the other shit would go away on its own. And it did. Before you knew it, I was 6 months, 7 months. And at that point, I was more intentional. Like, oh yeah, I don't even think about it no more. Like I can pour shots for you if you need me to. You know what I mean? Like I don't mind. It's you just made a great point with that. That was great.
Thank you. I think there was a long time that I spent very angry at God, higher power, this world, whatever, for being like, why did you put me through this life? Why did you put me through this childhood with my mom? Why was this my circumstance? And I think that it led me to be more intuitive and look at the why of my behavior so that when I did quit drinking, I understood exactly what it was that worked and exactly what it was that didn't work. I had this perfect model, so to say, of what not to do growing up. And I was very conditioned to follow that as an adult. And then something clicked in my mind to say all of those things, if that wasn't the result that she got, if sobriety was never happy sobriety, and I think there's a big difference, happy sobriety, if that's never what she got, then why am I trying the same exact thing? And then I could really see what I was doing. Sometimes we just end up with success and we're not sure how we got there. And I think that means we can't take people along with us. So when we can like look back and really annotate, like, this is a small move that I make. This is a small move. I think that is why I was given that story, that background.
You said something earlier. How do you feel about the whole alcoholic thing? So I'll say this. Personally, I've never been to AA class. I just have an idea of what it's like through movies, through shows, through research. You know what I mean? You know, I'm Dorian, I'm alcoholic, whatever. For me, I never liked to have called myself that. And I don't think I ever will. I said it once when I was at a speaking engagement, actually. And I said it, even when I said it, it didn't sound right. You know, and I personally, to this day, I would never say I was alcoholic. I just feel like I was a person who had some trauma and chose an unhealthy way to feel good on that, about that trauma, you know? Because I think when you label alcohol, it's such a negative word. Like affirmations that talk to yourself good. You tell yourself you're alcoholic, it's almost like being a dead horse, bro. That's my opinion. I don't know how you feel about the word or how you go about it with your clients and stuff.
We're in the same boat here, and I think we could do a whole episode about this. But anything you follow I am with, you're going to embody that. And I understand AA's mentality of, well, you have to accept the things that you've done. You have to take ownership. And I think that's where they're going with the first step of saying, hi, I'm Maggie and I'm an alcoholic. But does that make you feel good about yourself? And does that require you to live into a better identity? No. Identity is so important. Who we think we are is going to control our behavior. So me saying I'm an alcoholic gave me the same experience that I had in 2019. I'm an alcoholic. What's the point in trying? I'm an alcoholic, so don't drink. Well, now I'm seeing alcohol everywhere because my mind is attracting that theme and it's so hard and willpower exhaust. What's the point? I'm an alcoholic. But also it's looking at drinking as the only problem, whereas alcohol is cunning in the way that it looks like the problem, but it's actually the solution for a problem that we don't know how to fix. So when we're like, I'm an alcoholic, I just need to not drink. Actually, there's probably things that you need to do instead so that the drinking takes care of itself. You need to work on the trauma processing. You need to work on filling whatever those voids are in yourself. You need to work on confidence, lowering your inhibitions naturally, meaning a lot of people who are what they would classify themselves as alcoholics, they have a lot of insecurities. So they're operating in their sober life very inhibited. They're afraid of what people think of them. They're afraid if they say this, people aren't going to like them. Well, sometimes it's appropriate for people to not like you.
Oh, hell yeah.
And guess what? That's why they call it liquid courage, because it lowers your inhibitions. But when you become confident, your inhibitions balance out to the necessary and appropriate level. So by just saying I'm an alcoholic, you're only addressing the symptom of the problem. And everybody's unique. I had extremely high inhibitions because I was so afraid of what people thought about me, that I would never be myself. I didn't know how to talk about problems because I learned as a kid, we don't talk about the elephant in the room. So for me to even talk about my feelings, I needed alcohol to do that. It wasn't the alcohol. The alcohol was actually the tool that helped me do that. Maybe not in the best way sometimes, but it helped me do that. The problem was that I didn't know how to talk about it. Learn how to talk about it. You don't need alcohol anymore. You're not actually an alcoholic. You're somebody who needs to learn how to talk about your feelings. There's so many different reasons why somebody would use alcohol, but it's not because of a gene. It's not because of a disease. It's not some biological factor. It's your conditioning, your belief of self, your self-image, and I think your confidence, and then your identity. When I was kind of a tumbleweed blowing in the wind, going into the Air National Guard because that's what my grandpa told me I should do. I was going after something to make him happy. And then I went after Hooters because, that's something I could do. I don't really believe in myself enough to do anything else. I didn't really have an identity that I was proud of or that I even knew what it was. And then it was like, just like you said, you wanted to be a great communicator. That's an identity aspect. You wanted to be a great coach, a great leader. That's what you were able to latch on to. But if you carried around this, I'm an alcoholic identity, what do you think you would have lived up to? Yeah. And, there's people that I think do follow the AA program and they get their lives are transformed and changed, but that's kind of relative, right? So it could be better than drinking, obviously, but if they're hiding away, believing that they're an alcoholic, they're probably not going after things that truly make them happy. They don't believe in themselves. So find happy sobriety where you're going after an identity that you really want to be, so that you don't have to sit around all day saying, I'm not going to drink today.
For you, you stopped in 2020. Is your husband sober?
Mm-mm.
What's his drinking like? I mean, I don't.
He's a healthy guy. He
just drinks
he likes old
there.
fashions, and I'll be honest. I say alternative sobriety because I'm open to moderation for people. I'm able to have lapses in my sobriety, have one, and I say what I say is I redefine it. I'm never blackout. But if I say, let me have a sip, let me just try that. I have a sip and I'm like, cool, I'm good.
Interesting.
I know. Don't kick me out, please.
I'm not kicking shit out. Listen, man, I'm a very...
you're open-minded, I know.
I am, but this guy, a friend of mine now, his name is Devin, he recently asked me a question. He was like, are you I hope I get the word
Sober
right.
curious?
No, a centenarian? Basically somebody who goes against all societal norms, whatever, and I am.
I would say that.
I don't believe everything is black and white. It's not. It's gray as fuck. And there's no set rules on how you should speak and talk and, move. The world puts this they condition us since we're kids that you have to be a certain way. You know what I mean? They give us our name, they give us our religion before we can even talk, all these things. And then we grow up thinking the world's this way.
Right.
So I'm always against everything. Fuck that. Show me another way. I'm open to it. So that's the way it works for you. It works for you. You know what I mean? At least you're in control. Because like I said earlier, my issue was I was never in control. It was sober, blacked out. And I was like, you know what? I enjoy the sober part of it. But it's interesting. That's crazy that your husband, obviously doesn't drink like that.
No, I've never seen him drunk.
That's good.
Yeah.
What about your circle? Do you have friends that you hang out with or anything like that? How was it, the transition for you when you decided to stop drinking? And then, because most people that I've came across, that's their issue. Social drinking.
Right.
They don't drink anymore, so now they feel like they can't go out with their friends because most situations I've been in or fun activities, always drinking. Sake bombs at sushi. Let's go to PTs. Let's go to pregame. Let's do this and that. How was that for you? And if that was even an issue?
In the beginning, it was. I was very vocal with my husband of I don't want to go there because I don't want to have to say no. I don't want to have, it took me a long time to build the confidence and the other aspects of my life that were more enticing than drinking. I think that's the key. If you're going to put yourself in those situations, you have to have something that you're excited about enough to say no confidently and happily instead of, oh no, I'm being lame, I'm sober. Like, no, you have to believe in it. And so there were circles that we were in Savannah that I was like, I'm not going to hang out with them because literally the activity is drinking that we're getting together for. When we moved here to Las Vegas, I just think of this like divine timing.
Wow, yeah.
That I was able to recreate friend circles, and my husband is very big in the BJJ community.
Oh, nice.
Shout out hubby. He just made black belt. Actually, it was last year, but
okay.
You know, he's got very athletic friends. Everybody in the jiu-jitsu community is very health-minded. They can tie one on a couple times a year, but for the most part, they really watch what they put in their body. You know, we go out to dinner, they might have a glass of wine or something, but like for the most part, they're very health conscious as well. And I was able to also kind of make my own friend group with girls and women that we like to go for hikes. We like to go to EOS or go to a fit club and do workouts and things like that. You just have to curate your circle. And I think it would be difficult. It would be more challenging if I were to have had to do that in Savannah. I would have had to have conversations of like, hey guys, maybe not even conversations though, and just kind of like drift apart. I don't want to go to your house to literally drink, but if we go somewhere and drinking is happening, I'm okay with that as long as there's something else for me to do. Like, I'm not just going to sit there and watch you guys beer bong, but I'll go to dinner. And if you guys want to have a sake bomb, like, I'll take pictures for you.
Yeah.
I think that was something that I did very early on. If I was in that scenario, was like, I figured out what I could do for them. And coming from my Hooters background, I was like, oh, let me make you guys drinks. Like, I was never able to drink on the job. So I was like, if you guys are going to drink, like, I'll be the bartender. That gave me a job. I don't think everybody could do that. But, you know, now it's like, oh, if you guys are going to take shots, let me take pictures, or let me go get the waitress for our food order. Like, I try to give myself a different mission so that I'm not sitting there like, oh man, giving myself a reason to have FOMO, like figure out a way to have JOMO and be like, oh good, I'm not going to feel like shit the next day. I'm going to do this instead. Get your little memories.
I think, I try to tell people that I think it's important that you separate yourself. For me, I had to do it. It wasn't like a huge shift, but I was locked in on work, obviously trying to, all those things I said, be a good communicator, good coach. I was home and work. And I did that I had to even separate myself from women. I always told myself I went celibate and sober for months, almost a whole year, because I felt like you said, if you can't go to those places that you went to before. You can't do the same shit and expect different results.
Yep.
And when I tell people you should separate yourself from your friends and certain people, it don't have to be negative. It could be just a time period.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because willpower is not going to fucking win. But after a few months of time, I was able to develop like a strength or a wall of like, okay, I'm good. Like, I can be in situations or around people without feeling enticed or without feeling like I need to drink. But then after about a year, I started struggling with like identity crisis. I don't know if you had that or not too, to where I didn't feel as comfortable like talking to women anymore, approaching them, uncomfortable in situations with my friends, uncomfortable going out, because I was like, alcohol was always, throughout my whole life, alcohol played a part in all of that. But then I'm getting a life coach, and she helped me kind of navigate through it, and I got into a better space. And kind of to what you just said, like, you'll be the friend that does things, like, or there's something for me to do. Like, I went to a trip with some friends in Miami. I was like, look, if we're going to these places and drinking, they better have a hookah. Yeah. Like, I don't smoke hookah like that, but I'm like, at least that's something I can do, as opposed to me sitting there if y'all smoke your blunts and you fucking drink.
Right.
And we did it. And that's one thing I shout to my friends, that they always are accommodating to me, because they know I don't drink. Good. You know what I mean? So for those of you out there trying to stop, you might need to change your circle, to be honest. Yeah. Like, for a certain time period, don't be forever, but you might need to change your circle. I think it's important.
I think that holds a lot of people back from even trying. It's like, well, I don't know what I'll do about my friend group. But when you feel the benefit of not poisoning yourself on a regular basis, when you feel the benefit of your confidence building, then you can make a more confident decision of like, are these people for me? You'll actually see it from like a zoomed out perspective and be like, why was I so worried about losing these friends? Because I mean, I love them, but they're literally doing the same shit all the time. I can love them from afar. I don't have to divorce them. Just don't go as often and don't stay as long. Or you can find, or you find a group that does match your values and your morals. And I think that is an identity crisis for most people. Like, what do I like? What do I value in people? I don't even know.
Don't even fucking know.
I don't even know what to talk about because I realize now that all we talked about was drinking events.
Or you're drunk and then you're talking about
all kinds of shit.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And you said, I like that it was different. You said alternative sober mentor. Now with that title, what is it, or do you help people with their sobriety? Have a coaching program you do? Like, let me know and listeners know what type of things you do to help people. Yeah,
so I look back at my journey and I pick the pieces that really worked well, and I have built that out into a structured program. And I say alternative because, like I said, I'm open to moderation. If you are like, there ain't no way in hell I'm going sober for the rest of my life from where you are in your drinking mindset, then let's make progress with moderation. I know people say it's impossible, but it's not. Let's make progress to the point where you feel good enough to then say, maybe I'll dabble in a little alcohol vacation, meaning taking a month off, 2 months off, 90 days off is what I really, really suggest. At least 12 weeks. If total sobriety sounds scary as fuck, try 12 weeks with a coach. I have it structured with workouts so that you see how badass you are and you can see literal manifestation of your efforts and your body. I think that's a great representation of the law of cause and effect. If you just put in the work, you will see the effect. And I think so many people have this futile attitude towards it. So it's like, let's work on nutrition, fitness, help you feel like a badass. Also talk about these trauma processing, learning how to talk about your feelings, being more confident, figure out your purpose. Do you like your job? Do you hate your job? Wear a whoop. Things like that. Start to really build a health consciousness about your life, thinking in terms of how much water have I drank? How many steps have I gotten? And then from that perspective, just like looking at your friend group, you zoom out and you say, maybe being alcohol free isn't that scary. Maybe I could do this for 6 months. Or maybe I am able to have a glass of wine on my anniversary. And wow, I learned because I had that glass of wine and I've been feeling really good lately, and now I can feel it the next day. Alcohol actually isn't what it's all cracked up to be. So it takes from like what I saw my mom in her journey of like, man, I'm sober, but all I want is fucking alcohol.
Yeah.
To like, I'm sober and I literally don't want that. I want to keep living healthfully.
And what's the name of your program?
The Magnify Method. So
Magnify Method.
So on Instagram, I'm Magnify Maggie.
Yeah, tell us your Instagram. Tell them all that.
Yeah, at Magnify Maggie. It's funny. People be like, they just call me Magnify Maggie. I'm like, you can call me Maggie. But the program is the Magnify Method. Magnify Progressive Wellness is my company. Progressive, meaning we meet you where you are right now. If your goal is literally just to see what it would be like to moderate, then let's get going. Health and fitness focus, not drinking thinking. And I have my podcast. I would love to have you on.
Of course.
It's the Unsoberly Sober Show.
Okay.
Again, alternative. So I like titles that are discombobulating, unsoberly sober, being sober in different ways, redefining it. So we talk a lot of mindset, trauma processing, grief and loss, adult children of alcoholic topics there. But I'd love to have you on and share your story.
No, of course.
Yeah, that'd be great.
As we finish up, there's one thing I want to start asking people at the end is like, what is something you can tell one of our listeners that are listening or watching, a piece of information you can give them to help them transform and grow as a person? Now you have a sober background. It could be sober, it could be fitness, being a wife, whatever it is. What's something you think is important that could really be a nugget for them to help transform and grow as a person?
Start jotting down all of the things you think daily about what you don't want. And then think, okay, if I don't want this, what do I want? Because like we talked about, if you don't have the mental model of what you do want, you will be aimless. You will never be able to make strides there. And you're always going to be stuck in this shameful attitude that's going to just perpetuate poor behavior, self-sabotage. If you're thinking about what you don't want, unfortunately, you're going to embody everything that is. So get really clear on what you do want. And I think a lot of people, they go like deer in the headlights, like, I don't think I really ever think about that. What do I want? They're scared to really claim that. But be brave, be a badass, claim what you want, and start to take steps towards those things. They're going to be small steps, but they all add up. Small hinges swing big doors.
You got to take small steps to go great distances. Thank you guys for listening. I'm going to tag all her information in the show notes, her coaching program, her Instagram, all that. I want you to be in contact with her and follow her on Instagram and check out her podcast. Also, August 17th, Black Business Expo. I got asked this already. You do not have to be Black to go to this event. It's just to highlight the Black businesses here in Las Vegas. We have a panel of some amazing professionals talking about how you can generate wealth. And yeah, I want you there. Your friends are Black, your cousins are Black. You support me. I'm Black. I want you to see you there. August 17th at 3 p.m. Health is Wealth, Black Business Expo. We'll have vendors. We'll have breakout sessions, so workshops for you, and raffling off different prizes. Tune in next week to the Bambooszn Podcast. 2 words, keep growing.